Welcome to episode 39 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show. My name is Jeremy Poock, and I lead Senior Attorney Match. In today's show, we will have two questions plus our Poock's post. And as a preview for today's Poock's post, it will be addressing the four winners when senior attorneys sell their law firms to growing law firms. So let's jump right into it with our first question today. Our first question today is, how long does it take to sell a law firm? So in our experience, what we find is that the process involved to sell a law firm takes anywhere between 3 to 9 months, can sometimes be longer. By and large, we find that it is that time frame of 3 to 9 months, and it consists of 6 meetings for parties to get to a closing. So those 6 meetings, in terms of that 3 to 9 month process of selling a law firm, the first meeting consists of a meet and greet. That is, a selling law firm is arranging for meeting with the partners, the owners of a growing purchasing firm. And here, by the way, we're assuming that the selling law firm is selling to a third party law firm as compared to an internal successor. Just to segue for a moment, on internal successor deals, those can certainly take less time, especially if the parties already have had a meeting of the minds about a succession plan. It's not necessarily that 3 to 9 month period. When it comes to selling to a growing law firm, just get back to that first meeting, the meet and greet. The parties are meeting, often talking at a 30,000 foot view at that point about how the practices are similar between selling law firm, growing law firm, which practice areas that are compatico with one another, and very importantly, and this can really be summed up literally within a couple of minutes, is how well the ownership between selling law firm and purchasing growing firm, how they get along. How do they culturally fit one another? Assuming that meet and greet goes well, the second meeting of the 6 meetings is a due diligence period. Particularly the growing law firm, they want to know about what are the revenues, what are the practice areas, what is it that key employee lawyers and support staff at selling law firm, what do they do, what are the lease terms for the office location or locations of a selling law firm. Really just roll up the sleeves and learn about the selling law firm's practice. And of course, selling law firm, they want to learn about the growing law firm. So similarly, often looking at their P&Ls, information about their key staff people, how they are growing, what systems and processes that they have. And it coming out of due diligence, that leads to a very important next meeting. And that next meeting is the beginnings of a letter of intent, term sheet, offer. We've gone through due diligence. We've had the meet and greet. Timing wise, as we're thinking about how long does it take to sell a law firm from the meet and greet to get to what I call the third meeting of starting to negotiate a letter of intent, already 2 months have often already gone by at that point, just because of people's schedules and just the time and effort it takes to start putting ideas onto proverbial paper so that both sides can then start putting those terms together. And it's really at this third meeting that we find that that deals are either going to make it or break it. And it's not a bad thing, just means that if the parties are not able to have that meeting of the minds on what the terms are going to be when they're negotiating that letter of intent, that's when it's really fleshed out about whether this buyer is going to be the right buyer for that seller. Assuming that the parties do negotiate a letter of intent, and often that takes several weeks, can be over a month, over multiple iterations, then the letter of intent is signed. Sometimes after the letter of intent is signed, there's some additional due diligence. Often most of the due diligence was done before the letter of intent is signed. But sometimes the letter of intent can include, okay, a closing is subject to fill in the blank, whether that's due diligence, preparation of certain exhibits. After the letter of intent is signed, then that, call it the fourth meeting, is or really, I'm sorry, at the fifth meeting, because we consider the fourth is the signing of the letter of intent. The fifth meeting is converting the letter of intent into what we call a definitive agreement. So we're taking the terms of the letter of intent, adding them to a definitive agreement, adding reps and warranties and a different and additional terms that just weren't in the letter of intent. Negotiate that agreement. That often takes several weeks. We're setting then at that point a closing date, and then we're already at meeting number 6, and that is signing the agreement. So why did that all take 3 to 9 months? We mentioned before about that third meeting, that negotiating the letter of intent, and that's when deals, we said before, they either make it or break it. And when deals break it, then we essentially go back to the drawing board, and we may have already been talking with one or more other buyers, but at that point we are talking with those potential additional buyers and starting all over again, meet and greet, due diligence, negotiate letter of intent, sign the letter of intent, negotiate an agreement, sign the agreement. All in all, we can certainly expect that that can take somewhere between 3 to 9 months. Now, when we're thinking about preparing to sell a law firm, right, we know that the sale process itself can take anywhere from 3 to 9 months. What can a seller do in advance to prepare for selling their law firm? So here we'll go over a checklist in terms of items to update and organize before selling a law firm. So just to rattle off a number of those items on a checklist is so important before starting to market the law firm for sale, for selling law firms to organize. So first and foremost is your financial information, your P&Ls, your additional financials for at least the last 3 years, right? Where are the revenues coming in from? What are our expenses? Next is what is it that our key employee, lawyers, and staff, what is it that they do? What are their responsibilities? What are their core competencies? What is it that a purchasing firm should really be considering when they're considering hiring usually all of your support staff? Okay, what is it that they do? And importantly, of course, how much do you pay them? And what benefits do you offer to them? Next is your client list and referral source list. That's your book of business. Very important. That is often going to be an exhibit, a reference in an agreement, and that is the real value for many law firms, is the book of business. So what are the addresses? What are the phone numbers? What are the email addresses for your clients? Who are your referral sources? What types of cases do your referral sources regularly send to the law firm? The next updates are also very important. Your firm website, okay, updating the website, new bios, new pictures, LinkedIn profiles for every lawyer at the firm, sometimes also para staff at the firm as well. And now that we are in what we call the 3.0 digital era for the legal industry, what are your digital analytics, right? What are your rankings for particular search terms, search phrases? What percentage of clients are retaining your firm after learning about your firm digitally? What are those digital analytics? How are they changing over the course of months, quarters, and years? And then just to rattle off several contractual obligations of your firm, just to make sure that you have copies of these contracts and know what the terms are. Importantly, what are the termination dates? So your office lease, your CRM software, your legal research software, contract with your digital marketing company, your benefits. Do you have a 401k plan? How would that be closed if you're going to merge the practice with another firm? Your malpractice insurance. What are the terms? Importantly, flip towards the back of that policy and look at what's called the extended reporting period, the ERP, which is otherwise known as the tail policy. How much is that going to cost you? because most deals involve the selling law firm purchasing a tail policy. What are the terms on your copy machines? Do you have offsite storage? How much does it cost to retrieve boxes? That can always be a surprise, by the way, in terms of how expensive that can be. So now let's just hone in on several of the items in particular. When it comes to preparing to sell a law firm, there's really three very important updates to make before selling a law firm. First and foremost is tracking your revenues by your top practice areas, right? We may be tracking on an annual basis, quarterly basis even, the revenues that are coming into the firm. But how is each practice area performing? What are the trends that you are seeing that we want to be able to forecast to a purchaser from your top practice areas? Importantly as well, in today's day and age, how are the clients coming into your firm? What percentage are finding your firm digitally, and not just because of a traditional rainmaker attorney or attorneys at your firm? Has your firm become, or is your firm on the pathway to becoming a digital rainmaker law firm, meaning that you are originating matters digitally? Or what are the analytics that show the clients that are coming in and the revenues derived from your digital rainmaking efforts? Next important update to make is your client list. Hugely important, right? Who are your clients? Where are your clients? What are their addresses? What are their phone numbers? What are their email addresses? Are you connected with clients on LinkedIn? How many clients are you regularly asking to provide your firm with 5-star Google reviews, right? It's just the standard generally for clients to think about retaining new law firms, let alone purchasers. They want to see, tens, hundreds, depending on your practice, maybe even 1,000 plus. I just heard a colleague of mine, is very proud of his law firm. They finally surpassed, 1,000 5-star Google reviews. Not many law firms have surpassed that threshold. So just give a shout out, Chris Early. I sit in the Boston area, and Chris is here in Boston. He's very proud of that. So congratulations to Chris and his firm. And how many firms, are crossing over that threshold? And maybe that's not, that's a very high threshold. Let's get over 100 5-star Google reviews. And as you're planning to sell your law firm, focusing on asking your clients for a 5-star review. Your clients respect you. They appreciate you. You do hard work for them. It's okay to ask for that 5-star Google review, because it will pay dividends later when you are selling your law firm by showing the social proof that your clients know, like, and trust lawyers at your firm. And then finally, when it comes to updating your law firm in advance of a sale, is the importance of updating the website, particularly pictures, content, removing older pictures, removing older content. The first place that any potential buyer is going to look when they're considering your law firm is your website. Just drop the microphone on that. They're going to go straight to your website. A 2005, a 2015, heck, a 2021 website is not sufficient today. That website needs to be fast. It needs to look good. It needs to have fresh content. And ideally, going back to the 5-star Google reviews, needs to feature the 5-star Google reviews for your firm. Likewise, where are potential purchasers going to be looking when they're considering purchasing your law firm? They're going to look at the LinkedIn profiles for all of the attorneys, and all likelihood going to be looking at the LinkedIn profiles for para staff as well. So it's very important to update the LinkedIn profile, add new picture, add new content. We just did that for a client of ours, amazing immigration law attorney, hadn't updated his LinkedIn profile in literally over 20 years. And we spent a couple of hours updating it, because we just know that when we go to market, that potential purchasers are going to be looking at that LinkedIn profile, looking at that website. It's so important to update both of them in advance of selling a law firm. Okay, so for our second question today. Our second question today is, when should I let my staff know that I am considering selling my law firm? Okay, well, we get that question all the time. That is, when should I let my staff know that I'm considering selling my law firm? And underneath that question is really two questions, which is, when should I let my potential internal successors know that I'm considering selling my law firm? And then underneath that question is, how do I know if my internal would-be successor, key employee lawyer, whether that lawyer or lawyers, do they really want to purchase my law firm? So when thinking about these questions, let's think about the value of the staff to your law firm. And what we're showing here is that there's really 5 components to valuing a law firm. Those components consist, and we call them value chips, of your client list and referral source list, probably the most important value chips that you have. That's your book of business. Your next value chip is your key employee lawyers and support staff. These are the people that do the work, right? You can bring the clients in. You need the key employee lawyers and support staff to do the work. An internal successor, if they're going to take over the practice, they need the lawyers and the staff to stay at the firm to continue doing the work. And a potential purchaser, third-party law firm, also needs key employee lawyers and staff to continue working with selling law firms' clients. And then just to address the additional 2 value chips, or the subject matter knowledge that a law firm develops over the course of its, call it, existence, and the digital value that law firms develop over time. Let's focus on those key employee lawyers and support staff in the context of, when should I let them know that I'm considering selling my law firm? And when it comes to key employee lawyers in particular, what is it that they really want? And what we have found over time is that key employee lawyers and staff as well, they want a reliable, predictable, and safe job. Um, and how do we learn about that? We've learned about it in the context of this question of, when should I let my staff know that I'm considering selling my law firm? So often we find that key employee lawyers, they really don't want to purchase their boss's law firms. They can't afford to. And what they really want is a reliable, predictable, and safe job. So in the context of when to let a key employee lawyer or lawyers at a firm know that you're considering selling the law firm, let's show several what we'll call sequences in time with regard to this question. So first is when a senior attorney seller is thinking 2 to 4 years out, that they are considering selling the law firm. And we mentioned before, in terms of, one of the questions that the questioner here is asking is like, how do I know whether my internal successor, key employee lawyer, will they want to purchase the law firm? So what we find is that when an attorney is thinking, or sellers of law firms are thinking 2 to 4 years out of selling their practice, and they just float out to their younger lawyers at their firm, key associates, junior partners, that and let's focus on one founding seller in this, and with regard to this question. I'm thinking of retiring, selling the firm in the next 2 to 4 years. Okay, what are your thoughts about that? Okay, what we've typically find is 2 things happen there. One is that the key employee lawyers just change the subject. Okay, they've heard that that their boss is considering retiring, but then start talking about another case, or just something else altogether, right? Avoiding the subject, because at the end of the day, what is it that they want? They want a reliable, predictable, and safe job. It is rare, but it can happen when senior attorney announces 2 to 4 years out that they're thinking of retiring or selling the practice, that yes, those key employee lawyers will step up to the proverbial plate and say, wow, let's come up with a plan for us to take over the practice. If the key employee lawyers, as we call them, if they do not stand up and get up to the plate and make that offer, our advice then is to no longer involve them when it comes to considering selling the firm, because it's typically, and I think in this example, it becomes obvious to seller that your key employee lawyers do not want to purchase the practice. You put a softball in front of them. They did not swing at it. And now more time starts to go by. And let's just show that sequence of what can happen if senior attorney pushes this envelope too much with support staff, because you really want to just give them, or really the key employee lawyers here, you want to give them more of an opportunity to purchase the firm. You're looking at it, seller, as you're doing right by them. But in terms of what they're looking for, that reliable, predictable, and safe job, the contrast is as follows. Now, let's just say senior attorney announces, originally had made the announcement, I'm thinking 2 to 4 years out of retiring / selling. Next, senior attorney comes in. Often this happens in January after a birthday. There's other times the lease is going to be terminating a year out. Senior attorney now gathers together the key employee lawyers at the firm and says, you know what? You remember I told you 2 to 4 years ago I was thinking of selling? Well, I just turned 70, or it's January 5th of fill in the blank year, or the lease is going to terminate in 12 months. And now I'm really considering selling the firm, and I would love nothing more to sell it to you guys, my key employee lawyers. Well, what happens in that instance? What we often see, unfortunately, is that reliable, predictable, and safe job that key employee lawyers in particular depend upon, well, it suddenly became unpredictable. It became unsafe. And as a result, those key employee lawyers, they start thinking to themselves, wow, we think we should go and try to find another job, because we think that our boss this time, that he really means it. And now let's look at the next sequence here, because what can happen then when key employee lawyers in particular, when they believe that their jobs are no longer reliable, predictable, and safe, they will call a recruiter. They will look on LinkedIn. They will interview elsewhere. And then, unfortunately, we call this a random Tuesday event, they will walk down the hall to their senior attorney boss, who has employed them for years, sometimes even decades, and just give 4 weeks notice and go to another firm. And the result of that for those key employee lawyers is they've restored what they want and need, which is a reliable, predictable, and safe job. For the senior attorney, who thought that he or she were doing the right thing by informing their staff all along of plans to retire, well, now those key employee lawyers, those who represent significant value for their firm, to the senior attorney owner of the firm, it's essentially a gut punch, okay, to the stomach of, wow, I can't believe that they're leaving me. They also find that is senior attorney owner, it's very difficult to replace those key employee lawyers. And for the senior attorney who was trying to do the right thing and really does want to retire, now is thinking to him or herself, well, so much for retiring anytime soon. So now let's look at, what if senior attorney seller does not inform the key employee lawyers and staff throughout the process of selling the law firm. And in some respects, maybe that comes off badly, and we don't want it to. And I got this advice years ago from business broker colleagues of mine, of that letting the key employees know last, is the appropriate way to have a successful sale, particularly when the key employees, and here those are lawyers and support staff, are going to be key parts of a sale of the law firm. As we just discussed, if we let them know too early, they could leave. If we let them know once we've actually signed a letter of intent or even an agreement with a growing law firm, what we're often seeing is that, yes, initially the key employee lawyers in particular can say, why didn't you offer the practice to us? Well, I did 2 to 4 years ago, and I just heard crickets when I told you I was thinking of doing this, 2.5 years ago. Now I'm letting you know, and this is absolutely what we're often seeing in the marketplace. Now I'm letting you know that we're merging the firm with another firm. That firm is going to hire you at the same compensation, same benefits, sometimes even higher compensation, and the entire team is going to stay together. Perhaps our office location isn't even going to move. And when the key employee lawyers and support staff hear that, there's often a huge sense of relief because they are able to restore what they want and need, which is a reliable, predictable, and safe job. Senior attorney is able to deliver to a growing law firm what that growing law firm needs. So thinking back on those 5 components of value, we're delivering, of course, the book of business that the owner of the law firm has developed over the course of his or her career. We're also delivering that very important key employee lawyers and support staff who can continue representing those clients for years to come. So in short, when it comes to whether senior attorney sellers when should they inform their staff about selling the law firm, in our experience, we really recommend wait as long as you can, so that you can avoid the potential random Tuesday of a key employee lawyer or staff person leaving before a sale happens, because the sales often include the key employee lawyers and staff being hired. And at the end of the day, that is what your staff wants. They want that reliable, predictable, and safe job. Okay, so for today's Pooks post. Today's Pooks post is the 4 winners when senior attorneys sell to growing law firms. We continue to see that the most popular avenue for selling a law firm is the sale of a law firm to a growing law firm. And what we see in terms of like why and the benefits to that is that there are 4 winners when senior attorneys sell their firms to growing law firms. So we'll just rattle off the 4 winners, and then we'll go into depth on each of them. So the 4 winners, first and foremost, is the senior attorney, him or herself, or the owner group, right? They're able to monetize the practice, sell the practice, they're winners. Second winner is key employee lawyers and support staff. They're able to maintain their jobs, winners. Third winner is the clients, right? Lawyers have a duty to competently represent their clients, and by selling the practice or merging the practice with a growing firm that will continue to competently represent the clients are winners. And the fourth winner are the growing law firms themselves, because they're winning by taking on new clients, taking on talented new staff, and acquiring digital content. So now let's just go under the hood more on each of those 4 winners. So the first winner when it comes to the sales of senior attorney-led firms to growing law firms are the senior attorney sellers themselves. And that win really consists of 4 parts. First, they're able to monetize the practice. Many lawyers don't even think that their law practice has value. So much of the practice is based upon goodwill. By selling the practice to a growing law firm, they're able to monetize it. That monetization often includes an earnout, sometimes can have upfront money plus an earnout. That monetization is a way to have your career's worth of work to be paid for by a growing purchasing firm. Secondly, is that the selling lawyers or founding lawyer at a selling firm, you're able to spend more time with your family, more time outside of the office. So often when we talk with our clients, they just aspire to not have the office, be that really that ball and chain of, of where they need to be Monday through Friday, often on one or more weekend days. Selling the firm, you're able to spend more time with family outside the office. Together with that is just no longer needing to manage the office. And like just saying that is such a relief. And I can feel the relief of clients when we're at closing tables and we'll hear, a selling attorney say, wow, I don't have to pay rent anymore. I don't have to make payroll every 2 weeks. It's a huge win. And then the fourth win for a senior attorney seller is that they're often not fully retiring. Most of our deals involve senior attorney sellers that they're continuing to practice as of counsel attorneys. They have the ability to pick and choose which clients they want to work on or which areas of the practice they want to focus on. Some of our clients love just doing business development. Some love courtroom work. Some love writing. Some love marketing. The benefit of selling and continuing as an of counsel attorney is that you can pick and choose how you want to practice without having a boss. The next winner, the next winner of the four winners when senior attorneys sell their firms to growing law firms are the key employee lawyers and para staff of a selling law firm. We continue to see that growing law firms, when they're purchasing senior attorney-led firms, they want and need all of the above when it comes to lawyers and support staff at a selling law firm. And here's the reasons why. First is you need, that is, the purchasing firm needs lawyers and support staff to continue representing the clients of the selling law firm. What we find is that most purchasing firms, they don't have lawyers and support staff that just have thousands and thousands of billable hours at their disposal, or for contingency fee practice, have the ability to add to their caseload, hundreds of new cases. Hence, the purchasing growing law firms, they need the lawyers and support staff of a selling law firm to continue representing selling law firms' clients. They're also typically in growth mode, generating more clients, and finding talented lawyers and support staff is always difficult. And by hiring the talented and experienced lawyers and support staff from a selling law firm, that adds to the value of selling law firm, and hence the winner here is the support staff, lawyer and non-lawyer support staff of a selling law firm. They are able to preserve what is most important often to them, which is a reliable, predictable, and safe job. The third winner among the four winners when senior attorneys sell to growing law firms are the clients of the senior attorney-led firm. Those clients rely on their lawyers. The rules of professional conduct, as we know, require that lawyers competently represent their clients. So when a selling lawyer or selling law firm sells to a growing firm, they're really checking that box of ensuring competent ongoing representation for their clients. The clients are huge winners when senior attorney seller is able to say to his or her clients that you are in good hands with the growing law firm that I have sold to, or that we have sold to. And just to go under the hood on that, what we find as part of the deal terms is that because deal terms in law firm sales often involve earnouts, the senior attorney seller or sellers are fully incentivized to transfer the trust of their clients to lawyers at the growing firms that they join, or to the continuation with the lawyers at the selling law firm that have joined the growing law firm. And when senior attorney seller can let their clients know, you are in good hands with my new partners so-and-so, or you will continue to be in good hands with my former key employee lawyers who are still with me, still with us at this new law firm, the clients are huge winners there because they benefit from continuing competent legal representation. And then the fourth winner. The fourth winner when senior attorneys sell to growing law firms are the growing law firms themselves, right? What is it that growing law firms want and need? They want and need to boost the following three resources that senior attorney-led firms offer. Those three resources are: they want and need new clients. We're bringing over a book of business filled with new clients. Second is they want and need talented lawyers and support staff. Senior attorney-led firm has experienced lawyers, experienced support staff. They know the practice areas of the selling law firm, which typically match the practice areas of growing law firm. So growing law firm, huge winner by combining the two workforce of senior attorney-led firm with the workforce of the growing purchasing firm. And then the third resource, now that we are in what we call the digital era for the legal industry, is the digital value of selling law firms. So what does that mean? It means that in today's age, where clients are consistently looking online for lawyers to hire, well, growing law firms, purchasing law firms, they understand that they need to be regularly publishing digital content to Google, to social media, to LLMs, to be able to attract the attention of would-be clients. Well, senior attorney-led firms, they bring over literally treasure chests of subject matter knowledge to convert into digital content for LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, YouTube videos, podcasts, e-newsletters, and also, very importantly, the ability to reach out to the clients of a senior attorney-led firm. Ask them for 5-star Google reviews. That content adds value to the purchasing law firm in terms of their ability to attract new clients to the firm based upon the digital value that senior attorney-led firms present to growing law firms. So, in summary, when senior attorneys sell their law firms to growing law firms, there are 4 winners. Those 4 winners consist first and foremost of the senior attorney seller, him or herself, or the founders of a firm. They're able to monetize their practice. They're able to finally spend more time outside of the office, no longer need to manage the practice, and can continue practicing as of-counsel attorneys, often for years to come. Second winner are the key employee lawyers and support staff of a senior attorney-led firm, whom growing law firms typically welcome with open arms and offer them what they really want and need. That is, what the key employee lawyers and support staff of selling law firm, what they want and need is a reliable, predictable, and safe job. And proverbially and literally, what they'll hear is, "You're hired." Growing law firms want and need those lawyers and support staff of senior attorney-led firms. Third winner is the clients of the senior attorney-led firm. They know and are assured that they will continue to have competent, capable, zealous, ongoing representation by lawyers at the growing law firm, as well as the lawyers and support staff who join growing law firm as part of the sale. And then the fourth winner is the growing law firm itself. They're winning by adding the 3 resources that they need to continue boosting their growth, which is new clients, talented lawyers and support staff, and subject matter knowledge to convert to digital value for the digital content to attract the attention of would-be clients that will consider hiring the growing law firm for years to come. And that is episode 39 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show.